sure that this country and this province has water that's fit for consumption. My community of Fall River has terrible problems with quality and as well as quantity in many of the subdivisions. So I hear daily what it's like not to have good water. In fact, I've got somewhere in the vicinity of $5,000 worth of treatment on my water to assure that I have good water. So I like the suggestion coming forward from the opposition. I agree with my minister that we have to make sure that in going forward that we're doing our duty, we're doing what's best for the country, what's best for the citizens, what's best for our communities and my community of Fall River in looking after our water. So at the risk of being hasty, I would suggest that we must study this more fully and make sure that when we do come forward with legislation that we in fact are doing what we have to do. And then I can look back on those years when I was a child.
Order. Time has expired. I recognize the Honourable Government House Leader for tomorrow's hours.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow the order of business in the House will be following the daily routine and question period. We'll proceed into Committee of the Whole House on Supply, and following 4 hours in committee, we will then go into public bills for second reading, and we will continue the adjourned debate on the Financial Measures Act 2005. Speaker of the House will sit tomorrow from noon until 8 p.m. And Mr. Speaker, I move the House to now rise.
The subject of adjournment debate was presented by the MLA for Kings North. Be it resolved that this government's initiative in increasing funding to the Nova Scotia Community College is one of the most important contributions to post-secondary education that any Nova Scotia government has undertaken. I recognize the honourable member for Kings North.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And looking across the aisles at my honourable opponent, I have a feeling that he may be I may be getting back today some of what I gave him yesterday, but I know that what he has to say will always be worth listening. Anyway, the resolution that this government's initiative increased funding is one of the most important contributions to post-secondary education that any Nova Scotia government has undertaken. I should really add, since Robert Stanfield and other progressive conservative premier instituted the community college system. And the reason why I brought this resolution forward, Mr. Speaker, is because I get tired, frankly, of hearing critics talk about how our government has ignored post-secondary education. We hear that from time to time, and it's simply not true, Mr. Speaker. That is not true. We have made one of the biggest investments in post-secondary education that's been made in the history of this province. About $140 million for the Nova Scotia Community College system. And of that $140 million, Mr. Speaker, I'm particularly proud of 13.4, a little more, maybe just shy of $14 million that has gone to refurbish the King's Tech Community College, the Nova Scotia Community College branch in Kentville, Nova Scotia. And the reason why this is so important, this investment in education, and particularly this investment, is when you look at the educational background of Nova Scotians, the vast proportion of Nova Scotians have less than a grade 12 education, Mr. Speaker. So we know that to be true. On the other side, those who do go to post-secondary education, the vast majority go to university, and only a small minority go to community college. And the reason why this is problematic is twofold. In first instance, we know from statistics that the new economy that we're in, the new jobs that are being created, demand a post-secondary education. It's very, very clear that jobs for people who have less than a grade 12 education are disappearing, while jobs for people who have post-secondary, some form of post-secondary education, are increasing. I was listening to Gwen Dyer, Mr. Speaker, who's speaking. I help bring him into Northeast Kings Education Centre every year. And he spoke this time. Usually he speaks on foreign affairs and on the situation in Iraq. This time he spoke about immigration and the changing job market in Canada. And he wove these two themes together in a very interesting way, which I won't have the time to repeat. But he made the point that when he was young, there were about 30,000 jobs in the clothing business, mainly clustered in Montreal, paying minimal wages and that those jobs have all but disappeared, Mr. Speaker. But he said, on the other hand, when the broadcasting field and the media field has expanded to take on those jobs and at a far larger rate of pay. And so we know we're in this situation where you have to have more than a grade 12 education, that you need a post-secondary education. The other factor, as I said, is that for the minority who do go on to a post-secondary education, the majority go to university. And this is out of keeping with statistics in other provinces where they have a far larger percentage of people who go to community college, and a better balance, as it were. Because the community college system has some advantages that are worth looking at. It tracks the job market better than the universities do. And it also tends to graduate only as many people as can fit into the jobs that that they're training them for. The other advantage of it, of course, and this is an advantage for people today, is that community college education takes less time to go through. So you not only get into the job market faster, getting income back, but you also don't have to spend as much time accruing debts for your education on the way through. And so I think the government, in looking at putting a very significant investment in the community college, made a very wise choice, because our community college system was underfunded and in many senses outdated. And what we had was an opportunity to infuse a massive amount of money into the system, but more than that, through the leadership of Ray Ivany, who's retiring, but a wonderful visionary leader, to help learn from other jurisdictions across Canada and move our community college system forward, so that we're not only behind, we're not now behind the other systems, but in many ways our community college system is ahead of other jurisdictions in what it's doing and some of the innovative work that it's engaged in. I mentioned King's Tech, and I want to come back to King's Tech, because King's Tech in Kentville received the largest infusion of cash of any of the community college locations outside of Metro Halifax area. This is important, Mr. Speaker, because originally the plan was to have one big community college in Halifax. We would have lost our community college system in Kentville. I protested that. I protested that strongly. And I'm very pleased that as a result of some of the arguments I made, and many others as well, that King's Tech is not only alive, but it's flourishing with this infusion of capital. The outgoing president, Paul Goulden, he took my colleague David Morris and myself on 2 tours of King's Tech campus as the building has gone on, to show us what's been going. And this second tour was very, very informative, Mr. Speaker, as Paul Goulden took us through. We went to see the woodworking, the new woodworking facilities, the carpentry facilities, the small engine facilities, the large engine facilities, and the plumbing facilities, and the training opportunities that are available for these people with the new facilities at King's Tech are a quantum leap forward from what they had before. Before, Mr. Speaker, I remember with the large engine, for example, they have a truck that they want to work on. They had to flatten the wheels of the truck in order to get it in so that they could work on it. In the carpentry field, they now have room to bring in and build mini homes within the building during the winter months. And we went and we visited, Mr. Speaker, with Paul Goulden leading us, went and visited with each of the students and the professors, the teachers in each of these 4 fields, and also toured the new atrium, the student, the commons area. And one of the most interesting things was the enthusiasm of the students for what they were doing, and the fact that they were all looking forward with very good reason to getting a job. And we asked, once they graduated, we asked at the tail end, one of the teachers in the large engine part of King's Tech College, we said, can you tell us how are the students faring compared to, say, 10 years ago? We just picked that as an arbitrary number in terms of getting jobs. And he said, it's incredible. 10 years ago, when we educated students, he said they would be lucky to get a job in their field. He says now they can have their pick of jobs. And we can't educate enough people to meet the demands of the job market. And so this infusion of cash into the community college system comes at a it's a sort of a chicken and egg thing, I guess, but it comes at a very, very important time when industry is crying out for the jobs that can be provided by the community college system. And fortunately, we've met that challenge. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to state again, I know I'll get opposition in terms of we perhaps need to do more on the university side. I'm not going to deny that. But in terms of post-secondary education, this support for the community college system is a very significant step forward. And I know firsthand from King's Tech Community College how important it has been to the residents in my community and to students who come across the province to study at King's Tech. I want to thank you very much, and as I said, I'm sure the Speaker across the way will perhaps get a few licks at me as I did at him yesterday. So thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Recognize the honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And, the honourable member across the way, I won't be too tough on him, but rather he has probably been a bit negligent in not taking all of the important historical developments and really of just fairly recent times into account when we talk about this particular resolution. Which therefore be it resolved that this government's initiative in increased funding to the Nova Scotia Community College is one of the most important contributions to post-secondary education that any Nova Scotia government has undertaken. Of course, there's always a temptation there to move in the direction of post-secondary generally and look at the university situation that we're currently in. However, I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that while funding is an important contribution to the Nova Scotia Community College system, I would say that the creation of the present-day Nova Scotia Community College system likewise deserves attention. And I'm certainly pleased to comment on the fact that it was a Liberal government that was responsible for the creation of the Nova Scotia Community College system of today. And we know that that is an absolutely critical piece in the education of Nova Scotians and a piece that's very, very important to the future of this province. And in fact, in that regard, it does pose one of the biggest challenges as well, because as the member from Kings North pointed out, we do have a disproportionate number of students who go to university versus our community college. And in fact, that 17% of our students going to community college, one of the lowest, if not the lowest in the country on a percentage basis. So that is an enormous challenge. However, another very important part of the community college structure that a past Liberal government brought in was legislation for self-governance. And the self-governance legislation went a long way to ensuring that community colleges became actually more competitive and created better training opportunities to support economic development, because we know that it is one branch of education in this province that tries to parallel and, of course, in some cases, be out in front of where business, industry are moving. So making our community colleges more competitive and to create the better training opportunities was an important development. As well, a Liberal government ensured that a central management structure for the community college was developed, and the central structure that serves our post-secondary education system is in effect today, and again, another important dimension. Also, 13 new community college programs were introduced, and curriculum was developed, creating 57 new programming sections under a Liberal government. So it's important to keep a balance here, because I certainly recognize the fact that the dollars in recent years and redeveloping and reconfiguring the physical structures of our community college is a very, very necessary part of moving forward. One of the areas that I feel, again, a past Liberal government had an important part in delivering to the community college system was distance education programming. And distance education programming, without question, is what I would consider one of the greatest benefits to rural Nova Scotia, to the whole province, so that when you can stay in your home community and have the benefits of courses delivered at a local site. And of course, years ago, we know that our schools in particular were very, very key to being centers, because they had the investment already in technology and equipment to receive those courses. And today we know that the online programming is really an outgrowth of this distance education. And on a recent tour of the Middleton campus of the community college system, it was interesting to hear that now some of the programming, especially around the GED, the Adult Learning Network, is able to be delivered to students at home who have applied or are anticipating going into one of the trades and one of the programs that is offered by the community college. So that distance education then enables Nova Scotians to a quality education in their own communities, and probably is a milestone that should not be forgotten. And in fact, it's one that we should obviously keep in mind as we move forward, because it will continue to be a central piece of the community college system. Again, I would have to say another very important development in the community college system that came forward under a Liberal government was an increase in sales of customized training through the college system. Certainly this marked the first time our education system reached out to employers of our province to address their needs. And again, I'm sure maybe all members or many members of this House would be aware of how this is impacting on their local community. In our area, Michelin, for example, has been a major player in partnering with the community college to deliver very, very specific courses that move beyond the skills required on the production line to ones that are very technical, using the latest equipment for the manufacture of tires. One of the ones that I have talked about recently about reaching out to employers is with Larson Packers and with other food manufacturers in the Indianapolis Valley, who would actually like to see the production of a production line course, because they're finding now that students who have dropped out of school simply don't have the kind of skills for the workplace that are using more data processing, electronic monitoring, that need to take a manual to learn about biosecurity, all those areas now that have entered into the food processing industry. So this is the kind of advance that has been made, and that will also be a critical piece in the community college. In my opinion, certainly post-secondary education at our community colleges is an important part of the well-being of our province. And in that regard, I feel that this is one of what I would talk about as three challenges that face our community college. Certainly getting more students, and I think dovetailing programs in our high schools, because we have lost a lot of that old industrial courses in our schools, vocational oriented aptitude courses. And so I think building a new bridge of courses through our PSP, through our public school program, that would help tailor and gear students towards some of the trades, the technology courses, I think is an important challenge to raise that percentage of Nova Scotia students getting a better education and moving into the modern workforce. One of the areas that is a really growing concern, and I know as the education critic, I heard in many parts of the province, was the absence or the lack of places to look after basic trades. We all know that now in many professions, 50 and 55 years of age is sort of the average age of a group of plumbers, carpenters, electricians, steam fitters, and so on in some areas. And so I think the idea, which has started, is going to actually need to increase, and that is offering mobile courses. And I believe maybe Amherst is one of the areas that is targeted right now. I know Shelburne has such a course this year at their community college, and I think more of those kinds of initiatives will need to be made. And the other one, of course, is obviously keeping the grads of the community college, because they have some outstanding programs, and keeping them here in the province. And I did want to spend my last 8 or 9 seconds saying to Mr. Ray Ivany, as the member opposite said, has done just a marvelous job in giving us a vision of where community college can take us in the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Recognize the member for Timberlea Prospect.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, in the run of a busy day, you always look forward to the opportunity to be able to discuss such an important issue. And I had the opportunity, and I had it in my day book here on Wednesday, March 30th, 10 o'clock in the morning. I had the opportunity for, I guess, really the last time, Mr. Speaker, to sit down with Ray Ivany. Mr. Ivany is a man who has shown exceptional leadership over the years, and his contribution to the community college system in this province is going to be remembered for many, many years, in fact, many, many generations. And on that day, on March 30th, when the official leader of the official opposition and myself had a chance to again talk to Ray, if I can use the first name basis, because he's that sort of guy that, you know, you feel very comfortable with him because of all the things that he's done for Nova Scotian young people and all the things that he plans in whatever his next career move is. And it's a pleasure to have worked with Ray Ivany and seen the accomplishments that he has brought forward. But there's no point of, you know, the members of the third party talk about what they did and, you know, reinventing the wheel and then pointing to what this government is doing. Let's just talk what's best for kids, what's best for young men and young women. And I want to tell you, right now, we have many things to be proud of in the community college system across this province. And I think one of the key things is, as Mr. Ivany said to us that day, was that it's a network, and it's in places all around the province. Because I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, and I think you know from where I come, based on a member of your family's profession, as teachers, you know that university is not for everyone. It's not for everyone. You know, and I will say this, that you go and get a BA in history these days, and they ain't worth a plug nickel. And I have a BA in history. But let me tell you, not that you just go get one as an old college football player, but I mean, you go and get yourself a career. And when I was in that situation, I knew when I went to university, I wanted to become a school teacher. That was one of my career goals. But now when you're a principal of school or guidance counselor of school and they come along and say, well, what are you going to do? Well, you know, I'll take the old man's money, if I can use that expression, dad's money, and, you know, I'll go off to university for a year, see whether I like it or not. And then, you know, well, I'd stick around because, you know, they picked up a few courses, they made some friends. Lo and behold, 4 years later, they got a degree and nowhere to go because they haven't made the tough decisions for themselves of what they want as a career or as a job. And that's one of the biggest accomplishments that the people who are involved with community colleges have got. They have it very quickly identified that these are the attainable goals, and these are the outcomes, and this is what you can expect. This is what you can expect from what you are going to learn in that period of time that you're registered in these courses. And I want to point out to, and I know we have some young pages here this evening as they listen to my comments, you know, if they're university students and you end up with that BA in history and then look back and say, oh my God, I better go back to community college and get a real career, because there are people like that in community colleges now. There are people who've got degrees and have, how shall I say it with a BA in history, no real skills, and perhaps they couldn't get into a BED school, perhaps they didn't get into what they considered as a professional career, but they go back to community college. And I will tell you, from the experiences that I've had, the success of community colleges in this province can be attributed directly to the instructors and to the teachers and to the people who are working there with these young men and these young women. Because the huge majority of these instructors, they've been there, they've done it, and they can pass on the skills because they can say to who's ever in their classes, this is how you're going to do it on the job site. This is how you're going to do it in an office situation. This is how you're going to present yourself professionally in the career that you have ahead of you. And I know from personal experience, let me tell you, that I'm privileged to say that I play in a number of old-timers teams with people from the trades. And one particular teammate of mine is a plumber. And he can play over 50 hockey, so do the math. But let me tell you, young plumbers are really at a premium these days in terms of getting an apprentice and making sure you've got somebody who's willing to come back and get involved in the system. Our trades, our electricians, our plumbers, our steam fitters, we need more of the young men and women to go into these trades. And I point out to the pages present that I'm mentioning young men here, but I want you to know that when you go to community college, there is exceptionally great range of courses that are applicable to both men and women. I mean, some of the better plumbers, and I have one for my own home, and Mrs. Bootler, if you're watching me tonight, I want you to know that our plumber is a woman, and she knows an immense amount more about the sump pump in my home that worked, thankfully, last Sunday. But this is a sort of job-oriented, career-driven community college system that we have. So let's pass a bouquet on to the instructors in these various campuses around the province. And I've heard about King's Tech, and I know it's well recognized. I know that there are other areas in Cumberland County in particular, and the speaker is aware of that. There's other parts around the province. And one of the great advantages, of course, it is that for reasons of expenses, you do not have to travel to the University of Maine for an education degree. You don't have to travel to, St. FX, for example, to become a phys ed teacher, if I can use that example. You can cut down on your expenses and in a very manageable way be able to handle the fact that you are going to take a course of 1 or 2 years, and that when you come out of that course, you now have the opportunity to look at the career that you have ahead of you. Now, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, as you are well aware, perhaps you might have to move to another part of the province or another part of the country with the trade or the skill that you've acquired. Not just in the IT industries, not just in the electronic specialty industries today. But you know, I can say this with some pride, and I say it to the men that I know in my community who I know through other recreational activities. The absolute positive thing is to be able to recognize at the end of the day that you've accomplished something with your day. You can look back and say that I rebuilt that engine today. You can look back and say that we put up those roof trusses today. That's the sense of accomplishment that young men and women in whatever particular career they're in, they are valuable contributors to our province. You know, we went through a stage in the school system, let me tell you, where if you didn't have a shirt and tie on, you weren't successful. You, after all, everybody had to have a crack at university. And let me tell you, I know, and I've seen it happen, when young men and women have come back and said, this isn't for me. This just isn't for me. I'm more interested in doing this particular career or that particular career. And that comes with maturity, of course. I had the opportunity this winter, and I know the member from the Liberal Party was there also, to attend a conference in Truro at Cobequid Education Centre, 43rd high school in the province according to Ames, but I know the Minister of Education knows we don't believe that. It is one of the best high schools in Nova Scotia. And we attended a workshop on options and opportunities, the O2 system, and this initiative that the public school system is going to get involved in. And it's really modeled on the success of the community college system, because there is no better connector with the community and the resources at hand than the community colleges across this province. The O2 system will be, the O2 options and opportunities and the theme is on closing the gap, incidentally, will be very, very popular with teachers in the public school system because it's following the example of what has made our community colleges so successful. They connect with the stakeholders and the partners, they become part of the community, and they listen to the people who know what really makes things tick in this province. The people who are out there working day in, day out, making a living and contributing to the employment of this province. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for your time during this discussion. Community colleges are an important part of this educational system. We have come very far, very quickly under the leadership of Ray Ivany. I compliment him. I wish him the best in his future endeavors. And I do compliment the government for recognizing community colleges as an integral part of the school system and the professional training of young men and women in our province. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the honourable members taking part in this very important debate this evening. We are adjourned till 12 noon tomorrow.